The chair recognizes the gentleman from Georgia.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I rise to offer an amendment to H.R. 4553. Mr. Chair, my amendment, number 21, is to the Energy and Water Development and Related Agencies Appropriations Act of fiscal year 2026. My amendment, number 21, prevents the Army Corps of Engineers from closing campgrounds around Lake Lanier. My amendment will ensure that these campgrounds are open for my constituents and people from all over the country to enjoy the outdoors in Georgia's 7th District. Lake Lanier is the most visited lake of 464 federally operated lakes in the United States, with well over 10 million annual visitors from all over the country. The Army Corps runs the lake and the campgrounds and parks surrounding it. This summer, the Corps closed many of the campgrounds around the lake, citing a lack of manpower and resources, which Congress had provided $8.7 billion in annual appropriations 2025, which was actually $1.5 billion more than the agency's own requested budget. They cited safety concerns and manning issues, which we addressed appropriately, although they announced the closures after they actually did it. Thanks to the efforts of myself, Congressman Clyde, and our amazing local officials, state legislators, and county commissioners, we were able to reverse most of these closures and keep almost all of our parks open under the control of our local governments. Congressman Clyde and I also introduced the Lanier Parks Local Access Act to cut red tape and allow local partners to efficiently allocate budgetary resources properly across all campgrounds. Nevertheless, the Army Corps of Engineers should never be able to shut down our facilities without any accountability. In today's day and age where people are hooked on their cell phones and electronics, it's more important than ever to protect our outdoors so that our constituents can touch grass instead of a computer screen. In short, citizens should never be denied access to the very parks that they fund. With that, I reserve the rest of my time.
The gentleman reserves. Does any other recognition? For what purpose does the gentlewoman from Ohio rise?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I rise in opposition to this amendment.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Yes, in rising in opposition to this amendment, I do so because the amendment prohibits funds provided by this act from being used to close campgrounds or parks operated by the Army Corps of Engineers that are located at or around Lake Sidney Lanier in Georgia. I can certainly understand the strong interest in preventing the Corps from closing campgrounds and parks in any particular area, certainly this one. The Corps is one of the nation's leading federal providers of outdoor recreation. Not in my district, though it would be nice if they did. But in this place, it's recreation, well, the Corps' recreation sites receive more than 260 million visits each year and include more than 400 lake and river projects in 43 states. So they have a very broad reach. Unfortunately, the Corps of Engineers recreation funding has been declining in recent years. And I support the notion that we do not want the Corps to begin closing recreation sites due to lack of funding. However, this is an issue that affects hundreds of sites across dozens of states, and then there are places like I represent where we don't have any Corps sites, but we'd like one. So I don't believe we should begin the practice of using funding prohibitions to carve out special designations, but instead should develop a comprehensive solution to address the challenge of funding Corps recreation sites. For this reason, at this moment, I oppose the amendment, but I look forward to working with my colleagues to develop a solution to the larger challenge at the Corps, and I yield back. So the door is open if we could find other sources of funding.
The gentlewoman yields back. The gentleman from Georgia is recognized for the balance of his time.
So in order to address my peers' concerns, I will restate in the middle of this where I said specifically $8.7 billion in annual appropriations in 2025, which was $1.5 billion more than they requested. This is not underfunded. This is not declining. This is actually more than appropriate to keep those parks open. They had a manning issue, which was brought on by themselves by not manning when they had the appropriate funds. Then when the president put a limitation on that, we addressed that, it was opened up again. We actually helped them recruit and staff, and we actually opened up to local governance as well. So it's not like we didn't provide multiple solutions to keep those campgrounds open. They also had objections to safety issues because of the ability to not have safety vehicles get to those places. Well, ironically, by limiting the access, you actually congested the traffic more and made it more unsafe. I happen to be a safety officer, Monterey trained in the military, to ensure that these kind of things were actually addressed. And I wanted to make sure that they were not only funded, but also very safe and manned appropriately. So all those issues were actually taken into consideration. I don't think this is a partisan issue at all. And I definitely want to see people have access to the very funded things. This actually produces funds. This actually is a money maker for the government and is well funded and should be well staffed. So there shouldn't be any objections to this from the standpoints of the concerns that you had. I think we did address those things appropriately. And with that, I yield.
The gentleman yields. The question is on the amendment offered by the gentleman from Georgia. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it. The amendment is agreed to.